Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. This is episode 14, where we will be talking Fallout, the new Amazon Prime series based on the video games, as well as Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2, which came out on Netflix today, and I unfortunately had to watch. It is Friday, April 19th, and this is a bit of a special episode because today is actually my 24th birthday, so yay, woohoo. I'm not really doing anything special for it because I actually found out like 2 days ago that I'm defending my thesis next week, so now I'm just in panic mode and trying to get my presentation and everything ready for the defense itself. I found out on like Wednesday afternoon that I'm defending next Thursday, so I was like, oh shit, all right, that's not tons of time to prepare, but whatever, we roll with the punches. I hope you're all having a great week. I had a couple days off of work this week preparing for the presentation, of course. I've watched lots of stuff. I watched Fallout. I watched some other things that I'll talk about in what else I watched. Today's my birthday. I gotta get a new computer tomorrow. Ugh, life is crazy, but once I finish this defense, it feels like everything else will just kind of fall in place. That being said, there's lots of news to get to. There's many, even with CinemaCon over, every week there's like 45 new projects announced. But anyways, let's get into the news to start the episode. The first piece of news is that People Magazine and a bunch of other reporting sites were calling this week that Marty Scorsese wants to cast Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank Sinatra in a new biopic. So this was reported on April 17th, and it said that the director reportedly wants Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence for the Sinatra biopic. So Marty Scorsese, who is now 81 years old, plans to make the biopic after he makes his movie about Jesus. And it looks like he wants DiCaprio, who's now 49, to play the iconic singer-actor in the film, with Jennifer Lawrence also eyed to play Sinatra's second wife, Ava Gardner. And Variety was reporting that Sinatra's daughter, Tina, who's 75 years old, actually holds control over Frank Sinatra's estate and has not yet approved of the project. And that's just right now, but apparently representatives from DiCaprio, Scorsese, and Lawrence, nobody responded to like People Magazine's requests for comments. But yeah, another biopic. We are stuck in the mud again. And just last week it was announced that we were getting the Bruce Springsteen biopic, which is based off of his book, with Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen. And I'm so sick of these biopics. Like, we just got the Amy Winehouse one, which I think nobody watched and apparently was not that great. So I don't know. Let's just keep the biopics for like TV movies. It's not an interesting thing. I don't know. We really need to kind of rejuvenate the biopic industry because I'm terribly sick of them, and I feel like we've got way more duds than spectacular biopics. But if it's Marty Scorsese, I'm willing to like give it the benefit of the doubt. If it's someone that can make like a good biopic, I mean, it's probably him. It's Marty Scorsese. He makes like so many great movies other than maybe The Irishman, but like, I don't know, and Leonardo DiCaprio is an odd choice, I find. Like, I feel like, yeah, he could probably sing. He sang in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so I feel like that's something, but just an odd choice. I don't know. It's a lot of people have shown like comparison photos, and Leonardo DiCaprio is going to need like a lot of prosthetics because he looks nothing remotely like Frank Sinatra. But anyways, that's probably not going to be coming out for a few years, so maybe Leonardo DiCaprio can age into the role a little bit more. But speaking of old directors that are bouncing to new projects, Steven Spielberg is set to direct a new UFO movie with the Jurassic Park writer 50 years after the iconic Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is news I'm actually really pumped for. I still really love Spielberg. It's cool that he's going to be like dipping back into science fiction, and apparently he's making like an entirely original UFO film based on his own idea, and it's not, he's not adapting a book or anything, which I really great. I think that's really great. And like, he's made, Close Encounters, E.T., War of the Worlds, which I don't know, some people are a little bit hit or miss on. It was always on the TV when I was a kid, and I liked it. It was cool. It was Tom Cruise and Elle Fanning. What's her name? Elle Fanning, I think. But yeah, I thought that movie was cool. I don't know. It has that early 2000s sci-fi type vibes. But anyways, there's no title or anything like, or a lot of details even really about this upcoming project, but it was just kind of stated this week that David Koepp, who was like the screenwriter for the original 1993 Jurassic Park, is also going to be working on this. So it's a bit of a re-team up, but I like that. That's really cool, and I'm down with that. If he makes it entirely original and adds that, Spielberg flair, it could be cool. But the old guns are still firing, I guess, with Mr. Scorsese and Mr. Mr. Spielberg. Speaking of old guns firing this week, Brian Cox had some beef with Joaquin Phoenix over his portrayal of Napoleon last year, and I will be 1000%. I'll read the quote in a second, but if you close your eyes and listen to this quote, I would not think it was Brian Cox saying this. I literally thought it was a Donald Trump quote on Twitter or X or with the Bird app. I was shooketh. I was so shocked. But anyways, he said Joaquin Phoenix was truly terrible in Napoleon, and I would have played it a lot better. So at London's Histfest, the Succession star unloaded on a variety of topics Sunday night, including politics, theater critics, and Ridley Scott's Napoleon. He said, "It's terrible, a truly terrible performance by Joaquin Phoenix. It really is appalling. I don't know what he was thinking. I think it's totally his fault, and I don't think Ridley Scott helps him. I would have played it better, a lot better than Joaquin Phoenix. I tell you that. You can say it's good drama. No, it's lies." Cox then mused about Joaquin Phoenix's names. I think he's well named Joaquin, Wacky. It's a sort of wacky performance. Just that last part, that last paragraph, he said Joaquin, wacky. It's a sort of wacky performance. That part right there is what absolutely killed me. Like, I could totally see Trump at one of his nut job rallies just rambling, and before he has, strokes out because the pills are wearing off, but he's just Joaquin Phoenix, wacky, kind of a wacky performance. Excuse the terrible Trump impression, but oh my god, I was laughing for probably 10 minutes. Brian Cox actually says some, like, he's kind of a savage. He just attacks other performers like Jeremy Strong, and like he just goes after people. He doesn't really give a shit in his old age anymore, as most old people over. I don't blame him. You only have a few years left, and he's calling it as it is. I'm still yet to watch Napoleon. I think I've had a weekly thing to myself where I say, I should watch Napoleon. I'll check it out, but then just something comes up, or I just pull out of it at the last second. I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching that. Maybe Brian Cox is right. Maybe it is Joaquin, wacky performance. Perhaps the biggest news of this week: Deadline reported Quentin Tarantino drops The Movie Critic as his final film. So a little bit of context to this. If you're not aware, Quentin Tarantino, Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards, Bill Kill Volume 1 and 2, Pulp Fiction, of course. He's done tons of good movies. He has this thing where he only wants to make 10 films in his career. Nobody is enforcing this. He just thinks 10 is a good number, and he wants to end it there before he doesn't want to be like Scorsese or Spielberg and make, I don't know, it's a weird rule. And he's been, as I understand it, they've been ramping up to make this The Movie Critic, and like casting has been kind of like thought about, or the project's been proposed to different people, and he was going to make a film about like a 1960s or 70s movie critic, and Brad Pitt was supposed to be in it. Apparently Tom Cruise was going to be in the project, and keep in mind this was going to be his 10th and final film. This week it's reported that he's completely dropped the project, and it's not going to be his final film anymore. He's going to move on to something else. If it was a piece of dog shit and he was like, we cannot get this to work, that is totally fine. But if it's just because he's like, oh, I don't want this to be my last film, it's good, but I don't want it to be my last one, just make an 11th film. No one is stopping you. I don't get his 10 film rule. I think it's personally, I think it's really stupid. And Deadline was saying that it wasn't like not have been a quality thing, but he's, quote, he simply changed his mind, Deadline has been told. So there's no, clear indications about reasons really. It's just that he changed his mind. And I think it is fully like the 10th film thing. He's like, well, I only have one left and I don't want to waste it on this. Dude, just make an 11th film. No one cares. Like, I will not be shocked if he makes his 10th movie, it comes out, it does really well, and then he just makes an 11th anyways. Like, it's such a stupid rule. I just don't get it. But it was reported that like a couple years ago he was going to do a Star Trek movie, like an R-rated Star Trek movie, and if that was his 11th film, I would be cool with that. I could go for a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie. That would be sick. And actually, just last week at CinemaCon, they said the Star Trek 4 is going ahead, and I really like the new Star Trek movies. I thought Star Trek Beyond was really cool, and that first one I really liked. I thought Into Darkness was not great because it did the whole con thing, but a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie would be cool. And I was excited for The Movie Critic. I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a lot. I thought it was a really cool movie, and that it sets up the Manson family. It's like an alternate history movie. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed that we're not getting The Movie Critic. That could have been really cool. But let me know, what do you think like about this 10 film rule? Like, is he just like putting an unnecessary pressure on himself to deliver a final perfect film? I just don't get why he's hyping up this 10 film rule so much, and now now he's just dropped this project because he feels like it and he's just changed his mind. Like, what? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Last week we discussed Civil War, Alex Garland's new film, A24 production, and I've got lots of nice messages from people that saw the film, and I really appreciate it. And that's like one of the most fun parts every week is when people, after they listen to the podcast, like, hey, I just listened to that and I thought the same thing, or blah blah blah, or oh, I didn't notice that, or oh, I actually saw it differently. I enjoy all types of input from all of you. But it was reported that A24 is using AI to create posters for Civil War. So A24, who everyone's like, oh, they're like the hip film production company. No, they're scumbags as well. We're all scumbags. There's so much shit going down with this stupid AI stuff. Like, apparently there's a new Netflix true crime documentary that uses AI, and it's, oh my god, I can't. But anyways, The Hollywood Reporter wrote an article this week talking about like controversy, and it was new marketing art shows epic Civil War battle scenes, but there's just one problem. Well, perhaps more than one, or none, depending on your point of view. And there was 5 images that tease like post-apocalyptic scenes in major United States cities. So I think there was like New York, LA, Miami, Chicago, and except that like none of these scenes are actually in the movie. So as Hollywood Reporter said, they've caused some to wonder if the campaign is giving potential moviegoers a false expectation of what they'll see in the film. Civil War is A24's most expensive production to date, costing around $50 million, yet the images make the film look like a movie with twice that budget. And yeah, this to me feels entirely like false advertising, because they're just showing, I get that they're showing like the political downfall, but the movie is not about the war really at all. It's not like all the soldiers going into combat. It's more about these journalists. But also, just if you're going to make this your most expensive production ever, why not just pay for some posters? Like, why are you making CGI art? It's so fucking stupid, and it really gets me mad. I hate AI. It drives me nuts. I was super disappointed though. Like, there's that movie Late Night with the Devil, and it's just come out. I haven't seen it yet, but it was revealed that in the movie they use AI as well for like a couple of, I don't know, different cutscenes or whatever it is, and just a bummer. I'm really bummed in like original looking projects, and then you find out they're using AI. And it's disappointing, especially from A24. The final piece of news, because we have 2 reviews to get into today with Fallout and Rebel Moon Part 2, James Gunn's Superman movie has found their Jonathan Kent, or Pa Kent, with Preet Taylor Vince. They're in production right now, and is actually Peacemaker. Season 2 is also in production at the same time, but I don't think James Gunn is directing any of the episodes, so he's just on Superman. But James Gunn's Superman has cast veteran character actor Preet Taylor Vince as Jonathan Kent, aka Pa Kent, the rap has learned exclusively. That's basically his adopted father from Earth. But it's interesting because on pretty much every movie version we've had, you see them adopted dad die, and then it's just Martha, his mother, that's left over. But I actually really like this approach. If we're going to get both parents alive throughout the movie, I really like that, because then it's like more of a family movie, and it's kind of like the Spider-Man Uncle Ben thing, or seeing Batman's parents die. It's like we've seen it in every iteration, so why not change it up? And that's what I'm already really liking this adaptation, and the fact that it's not going to be an origin story. He's already going to be Superman. We're just seeing like an early version of him. Same with like the Batman. It wasn't an origin story. We're not going to see their, parents die. We're not going to see why they become their first flight or first night fighting or whatever. I don't know. I like that they're already established, and we're just like joining them as they kind of figure out new things about becoming heroes. So yeah, I cannot wait to see that. As I said last week, James Gunn was at CinemaCon talking about Superman. Of course, they've just started shooting like a month and a half ago, so they don't have anything to show. But next year, they're going to be at CinemaCon, probably show a trailer. The cast is going to be there, he said. So I'm pumped. I cannot wait for that movie. I love Superman. I love all the Superman movies. Like even Man of Steel, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but it's still like an enjoyable movie for me. Unlike pretty much every other Zack Snyder property. But yeah, that's cool news. I like that we're getting like the confirmed casting, and I believe they cast his mom as well, Martha. But don't quote me on that. I thought I saw this week that they did cast someone, but I didn't write that down. But yeah, that's the news this week. It's kind of a theme of old white dudes this week, I guess, because Marty Scorsese, Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, and Superman's dad. So anyways, let's get into the first review. As always, there will be non-spoiler and spoiler sections, of course, for both Fallout and Rebel Moon. I mean, for Rebel Moon, I really struggled to think of like, I don't know, non-spoiler things to talk about, because I'm like, this movie's shit. I don't think anybody's going to watch it. I may as well just talk about like the spoilers right away, but I restrained myself. So first, let's review Amazon Prime's new series, Fallout. Fallout is a new Amazon Prime drama with 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics score has 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb. It's been very critically well received. It came out on April 10th. Everywhere. Google's in a nutshell is harrowing, gritty, and horrific. The synopsis goes, in a future post-apocalyptic Los Angeles brought about by nuclear decimation, citizens must live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. The show is created by Geneva Robertson Dworet and Graham Wagner. It stars Ella Purnell as Lucy McLean, Aaron Moten as Maximus, Walton Goggins as the Ghoul, Moises Arias from Hannah Montana, if you're a fan, as Norm McLean, Zach Cherry as Woody Thomas, Dave Register as Chet, Sarita Choudhury as Lee Moldover, Johnny Pemberton as Thaddeus. Really, just a really great cast, to be honest. So it's 8 episodes in total. It's on Amazon Prime, wherever you are. It's a Prime original show. I've never played the video game series, but I will just say this was great, and I really enjoyed this, even though I have no attachment to this IP. I was seriously into this show, and I absolutely loved it, and I totally get why it has great reviews, because even if I feel like if you are a fan of the game, you're probably appreciating what's on screen because it's like really good quality. But as someone who has never even seen a clip of a game, I've only seen like the artwork on posters when I'm buying other games. This was really cool, and I didn't feel like there was any context lost on me or things that I'm like, okay, I don't really understand, because they just left that in because like, oh, well, the fans will know and they'll know. They explain everything that needs to be explained, which I really enjoy. And there's probably tons of Easter eggs for people unlike myself who have played the game, and they can enjoy the series even further, which is good for them. So let me talk about, of course, we're in non-spoilers, like I said. I'll say when I get to spoilers, but this is a really enjoyable show. I think anybody would like this show. If you like post-apocalyptic stuff, which I do. I loved, The Last of Us. I like Fallout type TV shows where it's like the world has come to an end and it's kind of what happens after. How do we rebuild civilization? Really cool. There's a show on Apple TV I've been meaning to watch called Silos, and I think it's the same type of thing. And after Fallout, I'm like, I should check that out as well. But anyways, even if you're not a fan of the games, I think this is a show you should check out. The cast, phenomenal. Everyone is so good in this show. Ella Purnell as Lucy, she carries this show so well, but she also does it with a great ensemble. Everyone is so awesome around her. Everyone is just so good as their characters that, it's kind of this like goofy world that has a 60s post-apocalyptic aesthetic, but it's just like the look and feel and everyone's attitude in the show is just awesome. Like Walton Goggins plays the Ghoul, who's like a cowboy. He was a TV cowboy in his former life, which is the first scene of the show and is shown in all the trailers. He is amazing in the show. Walton Goggins, so awesome. I could watch his character. He's probably one of my favorite characters of the year so far. I'm seriously, I loved every minute of him on screen. His weapons are cool. His voice and his makeup is amazing. But let's get back to Ella Purnell. I think she really, like, we follow her through the world and see everything through her eyes, and we're figuring it out as she does, because she's one of the vault dwellers, as shown in the trailer in her suit. She's one of the people that grows up in a vault and has to go on the wasteland to hunt down her father or find her father. And it's just really cool. I think she has a great character arc through the season and discovering the wasteland and how things operate up there, and that she needs to get dirty sometimes. And she's at the start, she's all Okie Dokie, and that's like something she says like 4 times an episode, and it's so funny every time. But then she just becomes this like hardened badass by episode 5 or 6, and it's really great. She's so awesome. I had no clue she's British. I had no clue. Her accent, she is an actress. Some can pull it off, some don't, obviously, but I know it's a simple thing to say that her accent is great in this, but it is. She has a great American accent, and I think she does a little bit of everything in the show. She has really funny scenes. She has great action scenes. She has super emotional things that she has to really emote, and it's awesome. She's a jack of all trades. She really does carry this show, and I don't think I've ever seen her in anything, but by episode 2, I was like, holy shit, who is this? Like, she is one of the new performers this year that I've discovered and really enjoyed her work. Like, she's so great in this show, and I cannot speak highly enough. And as I said, Walton Goggins as well. Aaron Clifton Moten, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He plays Maximus, who's like one of the brothers of Steel or whatever they're called. He's also really good in this show. And what I really like about the show is there's so much mystery, and Maximus is like one of the pieces of the mystery. Like, you're kind of trying to figure him out the whole time. Like, he's involved in some bad stuff or accidents that happen, and you can't tell what his intentions are throughout these accidents, but then kind of get clarity throughout the series. But immediately you do like him, and you have, I don't know, you have empathy for him, and you think he's a good guy despite he is a flawed character. And that's what I like in this show, that everybody has flaws to them. There's no like absolutely perfect plot armored ideal people. It's like this world makes everyone do shady shit, and Maximus is like that. He's really great. I really loved him as well. I thought he has a great character arc as well. And like I said as well, Moises Arias from, I can't remember how you pronounce his name, but he was on Hannah Montana years ago as Cisco. What was his name? He was the younger kid on the beach, but he's awesome in this as well. He plays Lucy's brother, who's in the vault while she's in the wasteland. He's so awesome, and we're kind of figuring out the mystery of the story through him and everyone else in the vault, and he's kind of playing like this almost a detective in it, and I loved his performance. He's awesome. He's very subtle, and he's not very over the top and trying to be dramatic. He is just kind of playing this like naive kind of, I don't know, internal shelled in type character. Not Sheldon, not young Sheldon. Shelled like an egg, shelled in character, and he's really awesome. You kind of see him like falling through the system and doing all this cool stuff in the vaults and figuring out the mystery of Vault 31, 32, and 33, which are the 3 vaults we kind of go through, other than a couple others, but I won't get into that because of spoilers. He's awesome as well. The entire cast, my boy Kyle MacLachlan, the internet's baby girl, the people's queen of TikTok. Kyle MacLachlan is awesome in this as well. He plays Lucy's father, and I never get tired of that guy. He's so good. The first time I saw him was in How I Met Your Mother, I think, which that show has aged poorly, but he's funny in it. He plays like the captain, and then Twin Peaks, of course. He's awesome in this as well. He gives a great performance, Mr. Paul Muad'Dib, the OG Paul. And there's like a lot of mystery around, because the whole like plot of the show is his kidnapping. He is taken by raiders. It's all shown in like the trailer, and that's why Lucy goes to the wasteland. And yeah, he's a very interesting character that you learn more about throughout the show, but I'll get more into that in spoilers. I really love the mystery of the show. Like, one of my friends texted me that I think she has played the video games, she said, but she couldn't get into episode 1 because they just like weren't giving her enough, and it was a little bit mysterious, but she's gonna try again and watch it, which like I definitely recommend, because it does get like it gets better every episode. I find like you're so into it by episode 8, but she didn't like how much mystery there was, and I get that. Like, you need something to latch onto or some truth that you want to learn more about, but I actually liked that we kind of know nothing at the start of the episode. That was, I don't know, just one way that like people watch the show differently and what they seek out. And yeah, like the mystery behind the ghoul and his life before, because the show opens with him and his daughter at a birthday party, and that's when we see the nuclear fallout, and that's a breathtaking scene. It's seriously so good, and such just a crazy way to open the show. I absolutely loved it. And like, speaking of explosions, actually, the CGI in this show it's actually pretty good. Like, for, you know, it's just like an Amazon Prime show, and I know The Boys, which this show actually reminded me of The Boys a lot, just in the production design and the value and cinematography. It was really good. I mean, you can tell that some stuff is very CGI, but I was never kind of, other than one thing I'll talk about in spoilers, but I was never really like sitting back in my chair like, ooh, that looks absolutely terrible. The whole time I was like, oh, the monsters look good, all the makeup's awesome, and all the visual effects and everything like that, really cool. And like the bombs and the cities all look awesome. They don't look rubbery, or you can just tell that this looks like a PlayStation 2 animation. So absolutely hats off to the people behind the visual effects and special effects of this, because it was really cool, and I liked all the design of the world, like the CGI, that all the things that are clearly, you know, the monsters that they're putting in post-production, just really cool. And when they're interacting with the human characters, they look good. So CGI, phenomenal. And the ghoul's nose is actually like CGI'd out. Like, Walton Goggins is wearing all of the makeup, and he's posted it on his Instagram, like the time lapse of him getting the makeup put on, but his nose is CGI'd out because he has like a hole where his nose is, and that looks so awesome. I was blown away. And the ghoul, like his makeup, like it's not 10 layers of makeup where you can't recognize the performer underneath. It is fully Walton Goggins, and they use the makeup very like a thin layer very sparingly, and it's still like his face shape, and you can just really, especially with the flashbacks that you get of him and his life before the fallout, I think that, you know, less is more type attitude with the makeup really did help, because you kind of get to track that it's still the same guy in there, and his emotions really show through, and it just helps his performance even more as well. I really enjoyed the scale of this world. Like it's a California based thing. And I just really love kind of the exploring aspect of the show. We're going to all these different communities and towns and settlements and stuff like that are in their crazy lives after, and like walking through the desert and stuff like that after all this fallout. And I think it really does a good job of like showing the scale of the world and how you kind of have to walk everywhere and stuff like that. I really enjoyed the world building aspect as well. It felt like we were learning stuff about the world itself and the fallout every single episode, which is great. You don't want to just, dump all of the information the first 2 episodes and then just focus on the present. It was really cool seeing like the evolution of the world over all 8 episodes. You never stop learning and world building, which I really appreciate, especially in a season 1. Like a season 1 is meant to set up multiple seasons, usually is what you would hope for, is my guess. This does a really great job of, keeping you learning new information every episode. There's never like a filler episode where we're like, okay, nothing really happened there, especially because they did drop this all at once, which I was actually kind of disappointed they did. I think if they did this weekly, this would be a hit and people would be talking about it every week because it is thoroughly entertaining and it could hold attention and online discourse. The day it dropped, which was April 10th, everybody was talking about it online. Podcasts and the, Twitterverse and stuff like that. Like social media was seriously loving the series. And if they were doing like what X-Men is doing and dropping it week to week, they would have so much more attention. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Maybe that's the only thing I don't like about the show is that they dropped it all at once. But it was great for me because I could binge it. I really like I was talking about the world building, but I really like just the aesthetic in general of the world. When the show opens, we're in the 1960s, but it kind of has like that cool futuristic, I don't know, Call of Duty, Black Ops Zombies type, like futuristic aesthetic, or like the Jetsons. I don't know, what else it's in the 1960s. It's like what they thought the future would be like. I don't know, just all these different like machines and the curvature of everything. It's just really cool. And I really like the aesthetic of this world. It's fascinating. And then all the leftover technology and like it's super 60s. And it's fun because even 200 years later when our story is taking place, of course they're still stuck in that 60s aesthetic because the world hasn't really moved on. And I really just love the emotions of the show. This is, at the end of the day, this is a show about family and, losing family, gaining new family and friends, trying to stick together and learning the truth of who you love and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of great emotional weight to this show because this is about a father and a daughter in 2 different senses, with Walton Goggins' character and both Lucy's character. So yeah, another thing I think, I don't know, the last few things we've reviewed have all had really great emotional cores that don't feel hollow, which in the Rebel Moon review, I'll get to. You want to talk hollow, let's talk Rebel Moon. Yeah, this was really awesome. I think that's all I'm going to say for non-spoilers, other than one more thing. It's already been renewed for season 2, which I think is awesome because there have been 7 games of this, I think. So they have so much source material to go back to and adapt. So it's already been renewed for season 2. I think rightfully so because it was so much fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend you do. It is totally worth checking out if you're into sci-fi, apocalyptic stuff, you're into like a good drama, you like longer episodes. Like every episode is 49 to an hour and 6 minutes, and I loved that because I don't know, you spend a day watching the whole series and it's great. And you can also just do it like once a day. If you watch television for an hour, just watch an episode of Fallout. It's paced super well. I seriously enjoyed this and I highly recommend it to everyone. Okay, spoiler time. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, there's time codes. Skip ahead to the non-spoiler Rebel Moon section. But one of the big things is that Lucy and Maximus meet and they're romantically entangled with each other. And I think those 2 performers have such great chemistry. Like you can tell they're both kind of discovering this world they're unfamiliar with, but then they find loving familiarity with each other and are comforted by each other. And I thought like, damn, Maximus and Lucy, they knock it out of the park together, and their performers have such natural chemistry, and like you can tell there's a spark as soon as they meet. And I seriously love that, and I appreciated it even more after watching Rebel Moon, which has 0 chemistry in any actors. But yeah, they're great. They fall in love, they have a big kiss, stuff like that. The Ghouls backstory speaking of love, is really tragic. Like, it turns out so it's in the 60s, of course, it's the Cold War, and everyone's paranoid about communism and the red wave and stuff like that. So he's like spying on his wife, and she works at Vault-Tec, which is the company that's basically responsible for all of this nuclear fallout and needs it to happen because they make vaults and they need people to go underground so they can make money. And he's kind of like this old world guy. He's like an old-fashioned, he's a TV and movie actor. Then he starts doing these commercials for Vault-Tec. He's asked to spy on his wife by this like old Hollywood society, I guess. But just the ghouls, both present time, like him as the ghoul, but also all of his flashbacks, it just shows like what a tragic character he is. And I thought Walton Goggins was so good as the ghoul. He's not just him, but everyone in the show is actually getting a lot of praise for their performances, and especially Walton Goggins. I think he seriously deserves it, because I just love, I don't know, I like projects with red paranoia and communist paranoia and stuff, like Cold War stuff. Is, I studied history, and it interests me because I wasn't alive, as most things. And this is really cool, like an alternate history where the bombs did drop, and this is all the product of that. But was it them dropping the bombs on themselves? I don't know, but it's really cool. And you get to see Los Angeles communist paranoia with actors and stuff like that. And he has a daughter who he loves very much, so great family love that you see from him. He truly does love his family, but he realizes what Vault-Tec is. And the Vault 31, 32, 33 transfers. So the mystery of the show is Vault 32, they're all gone, and then they have to repopulate Vault 32 from Vault 33, pardon me. So people are like reassigned, and then it's revealed that Lucy's father, Kyle MacLachlan, is actually cryogenically frozen as a Vault-Tec executive and brought to Vault 33 to be like the overseer. But yeah, the mystery of 31, 32, 33 plays out really well in the show. Like, you're just learning new stuff every episode, and it's so interesting because it's like just this dark room beyond this door that everyone wants to learn about, and we see Lucy's little brother exploring that, and I really enjoyed that. And there's actually another vault within the movie, or the TV show, pardon me, where Lucy ends up trapped in Vault 4, and her punishment for discovering cryogenically frozen people is they send her to the wasteland. And it's so funny. It's Chris Parnell, I believe. He plays kind of the overseer of that vault, or one of the two overseers or whatever, and it's so funny because everyone there is so nice. They offer them food, hot showers, and Maximus has never been in a vault, so he's like, oh my god, this is the life. So you're thinking they're just going to stay there. They reveal that every vault has their own experiment that they're doing, and theirs is like, I don't know, all this DNA swapping and mutating and stuff. Like, Chris Parnell's character only has one eye, and people have like noses on their foreheads and ears on their foreheads, and it's Vault 4 is like the funniest part of the show, everything that happens there. And once Lucy's caught snooping, because he's like, oh, don't go to level 12, and then of course Lucy goes up there, she's going to go to level 12 and snoop, and she's thinking she's going to be killed, and then they're like, your punishment is we send you to the wasteland, which she was already trying to escape. And it's a really well written comedic timing. They're like, oh, and your punishment is as well, you only get 2 weeks of supplies. And it's like, okay, well, she's only going to be out there for like 2 more days to find her dad because they're nearby. So it was awesome. It was really funny, and Maximus doesn't want to leave, but then he has to leave with her and stuff, and he runs into the room because he thinks they're attacking her, and he starts just throwing people and killing people. And then she's like, no, Maximus, is okay, they're letting us go, that's our punishment. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just a hilarious episode, that one, where they're in Vault 4. One reveal that I really liked was that Vault-Tec executives were cryogenically freezing themselves to wake up in 200 years or whenever, to basically shape the new world after the nuclear fallout within Vault-Tec's morals, and so they can make the rules and stuff like that, and keep bombing the world and restarting civilization. So Vault-Tec is basically controlling all of the new California, or all of the country, I guess. We find out in the final episode that Kyle MacLachlan, Lucy's dad, is actually a Vault-Tec executive who was cryogenically frozen. And that's just like a really interesting twist, because we're trying to figure out where Lucy's mom went. We know she's dead, or she abandoned them, but she's actually alive and was turned into a ghoul by her father, who was actually from Vault 31 and lied and is from the past. And when the mom found out, he, gave her the ghoul serum or whatever, and she turned. So yeah, and that's like a great reveal in the final episode that I really enjoyed, and I think that whole cryogenic storyline worked really well. Why are they freezing these people? Oh, it's all the executives. And that is where we do get some CGI that I wasn't huge on. We see Kyle MacLachlan de-aged when he's meeting the ghoul when he was, a human in the 60s. And I wasn't massive on that, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because I find most de-aging is not good in things. Everyone kind of looks like a robot or plasticky. So, I'm willing to forgive and forget, but it was a bit of a jump scare. Final thing I'll say in spoilers is they reveal New Vegas at the end, which I guess is one of like the storylines of Fallout New Vegas, I think it's called, and it's kind of like a mob storyline, and that's where Lucy's dad escapes to at the end of the show. So, like I said, there's going to be a season 2, and I'm guessing it's going to involve New Vegas. So, if you're listening now and you listen to all the spoilers, but you didn't watch the show, I still recommend watching the show because it's super fun, and you're going to enjoy it. But anyways, that was Amazon Prime's Fallout. I think a stellar show, like a solid 8.5 or 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to every episode when I was watching them, and there was never a moment where I'm like, ugh, okay, I need a break from this. It was just constant, okay, I need to push through. So yeah, highly recommend. Anyways, let's talk about Netflix's newest film that came out today, Friday, April 19th, a nice birthday gift to me to hate watch, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Ooh, edgy. It's an action sci-fi 2 hours and 2 minutes long. As I said, just came out today. Google's nutshell description is epic, intense, and gritty. The synopsis. Korra and surviving warriors prepare to defend Veld, their new home, alongside its people against the realm. The warriors face their pasts, revealing their motivations before the realm's forces arrive to crush the growing rebellion. It has 11% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 47% audience score, 5.6 on IMDb. I think it's like 2.7 average rating on Letterboxd. I gave it a 1.5 I think. This was absolute dog shit. So it's directed by Zack Snyder, of course, who, my God, he doesn't have an original bone in his body. Everything he makes is just adaptations and weird kind of not rip-offs, but just like inspired by other things. But it's so clearly derivative of other things. It stars Sophia Boutella, Anthony Hopkins, Ed Skrein, Charlotte Maggie, Stas Nair, Ray Fisher, Jamon Hansu, Michelle Heisman, Carrie Elways, Jenna Malone, Bae Doona, Frafi, and Corey Stoll was in the first one. But yeah, it's okay. I will start with non-spoilers, of course. The opening scene is just a recap of part 1, which came out 4 months ago. It came out December 15th, which immediately it's Anthony Hopkins just doing an exposition dump for those who didn't want to watch the first one. And it immediately turned me off. I was like, I'm not enjoying this, but let's get into the cast first, like I did with Fallout and like I normally do. This cast, I've never seen such a lack of chemistry in a cast. The romantic leads, so incredibly terrible. It feels like they just met that day, or one of them has bad breath, because you would not think they're in love with each other. This is like a sci-fi soap opera. Korra and Gunnar have absolutely no chemistry, and it's painful to watch. It is really painful to watch. I'll stick in non-spoilers, but I think this whole cast gives the most mediocre, one-dimensional performances. They all look bored. No chemistry. Don't look like they want to be there. Look like they're just being told to say the words exactly how they are, even though they make no sense. There's so many plot holes. There's so many issues. Ed Skrein, who plays the villain, he's just scene chewing. He's the most one-dimensional big baddie. He has no nuance to his performance. Like, he does a superhero landing at one point, and it's the most cringe thing I've ever seen. He does like the superhero landing from a 2-foot drop, and you can tell that they just cut, and he like jumped off a mat and fell on a foam pad or something. It's so bad. And the whole title, The Scargiver, every time they say it in the movie, my skin crawls. Like, it's meant to be so dramatic, and The Scargiver. And like, you laugh because it's so goofy, and it's the most edgelord type thing. I don't know. It's Ed Skrein at one point says like, from the Scargiver herself, and shows the scar. And I was cackling laughing. It's so bad. It's really bad. I cannot stop saying this. It is really, really bad. And I've read some reviews online, and this movie is just getting torn to shreds, and same with the first one. And a lot of people are saying this one is worse, and I would agree, to be honest. Actually, yeah, they're both equally terrible, but I kind of enjoyed this one even less. everyone sounds like they're doing a Tommy Wiseau impression, or they're trying to do his mannerisms. Like, the way they're delivering lines is so unnatural. Like, oh, maybe the farmers will know. And you just shake your head like, what is that affliction in your voice? I don't know. Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you actually confused? Or was that just the directing you were given, the directions? Just the plot of this story makes no sense. So if you didn't watch the first one, I'll give you a quick 2-second summary. Basically, this empire comes down and they want all their wheat and harvesting and stuff like that. They need supplies for the empire or whatever. They fight back against the empire, and then Korra has to go on this road trip and gather a team to fight as a rebellion for the planet. And yeah, it's the whole first movie is just meeting all these different characters and bouncing around to all these different worlds and assembling a team. So you would think the second movie is just battle and them resolving things. No, it's more introduction. It's more meeting people. And in this one, the Empire says we're coming to get stuff in 5 days or 3 days or whatever. So they have to do a whole season's harvest in 3 days. And everyone makes such a big stink about it. Everyone's like, oh my God, 3 days. We're going to have to work so hard. They do it absolutely no problem. And they're out drinking every night and hanging out. There's maybe 10 seconds of work shown. It's comedic how bad the writing is in this movie, that all of a sudden these people, without breaking a sweat, can harvest everything in 3 days and have time for monologuing and drinking and dumping backstory, which the backstory is told in the most lazy fashion possible. They're all just finished a hard day of harvesting, one of the maybe 20 minutes of work they do, which is of course shown in slow-mo because everything's in slow-mo in this movie. And Jamon Hansu's character said, if we're gonna battle, we need to know the truth about each other. It's like, what was the first movie for then? We literally met you all in your own worlds. We learned all about you guys, and now you're all gonna reveal that, we're all hiding secrets. It was a whole scene where each person goes through and tells a story about themselves, and we get just slow-mo flashbacks, and it was so painful. I'm not even kidding. 80% of this movie is in slow motion, and it's, oh my God, it's terrifying how bad this is. And Zack Snyder just keeps getting work in directing huge movies like this. It's scary. About 15 minutes of this movie is them in slow motion harvesting their farming stuff. It's wild. We get a hype tape for farming, and I was blown away. I'm like, what am I watching right now? We're just watching people chop down wheat. This is not interesting or original or cool. This is not Star Wars adult version Zack Snyder. You have been lying to us. It's like, we don't care. Can we move on to something else, please? And the farm is pretty much the only location we are at in this movie. We're only on this planet other than the ships, and the scale of the story is just so small and insignificant. It's not interesting. And every 5 minutes is just exposition and flashbacks and explaining the world. It's like, this is part 2 of 2 movies. Stop doing flashbacks and resolve things with action and battle. If this is supposed to be the resolution to this empire thing dominating this planet or trying to dominate this planet, shouldn't it be them fighting back, not them just talking to each other and explaining things? The movie makes no sense when you watch part 1 and part 2. And he said, this is Star Wars, but my version of Star Wars. The only thing that's different is that the good guys have red colored light swords and the bad guys have blue ones. It's like, Zack Snyder, you're not doing anything world changing. He writes this thing like nobody's ever seen a sci-fi movie, and he's the only one that knows anything about this stuff. It's like, dude, we've all watched these. We recognize where this is from. You're not being original. Visually, there is some cool stuff in here. I'll say that. It's the one good thing I'll say about these movies is that there is some interesting visual things. But other than that, it's so bad. And the fact that he's already talking about a director's cut is pathetic. Every movie he's made is director's cut. Oh, my version. Oh, well, the studio. Dude, make a good movie within the parameters that you're being told. You're just blaming the tools that you're given instead of just being an artist and making something in collaboration with the studio. Tons of great directors make their own vision within the parameters of what the studio also wants for the story. And he needs 5 hours to still make a bad movie. Okay, I'm going to get into spoilers because there's really not much to talk about with Rebel Moon Part 2. So, spoilers from here on out. I wouldn't recommend this movie also. I wouldn't recommend the Rebel Moon movies. They're so stupid. They're not entertaining. They're super slow. The pacing is terrible. The writing is awful. This feels like a Hallmark Channel sci-fi movie. Some of the dialogue is just ripping nails out. Spoilers. So Korra is killing, it's revealed that she killed the royal family herself, and it was hilariously bad, that scene. It's all, of course, it's all in slow motion, but just the emotions that everyone's showing, everybody's just screaming the whole time in slow motion, and it's like nothing visually is happening here that's interesting, and the princess is like, it's okay, I forgive you, and it's so funny in slow motion. Like, what are we doing here? There's another death that's hilarious in this where this guy falls from a plane after being stabbed by the villain, and it's the most like balloon CGI dude falling out of the plane, and he splats on the ground, but there's no blood, no nothing. It's just like a little cloud of, it's like a cartoon. It's so funny how bad it is. And someone checked that, like in a visual effects department, and was like, yep, that one's good. All right, we got the guy falling out. The Anthony Hopkins character, dun dun dun, turns on the Empire, which was literally so obvious from the first second of the first movie, and he ends up, saving the village or whatever, and it's so uninteresting. Everything about these is so predictable and bland. It's hollow. It's not creative. It's just artistically boring, and it's just uninteresting. And half of it doesn't make sense. Like the whole third act is just smoky CGI fighting, and you're just losing track of whatever all this garbage is. And, her love interest is like hiding on the plane, but then sees the villain and his guard talking to Korra. And what does he do? He shoots the guard first and not the villain. So then the villain turns around and shoots him, and he dies. It's like, dude, why didn't you shoot the bad guy first? Like the whole villain. You know who he is. Kill him first. Like stuff like that makes no sense, and just gives characters plot armor, or like these characters are just serving the plot of the movie, and their choices don't make sense. Everything about this is it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't look right. Like there's a kiss, even a kiss at the end looks like the two actors are being forced at gunpoint to kiss each other. It's like this blonde woman from the village and one of the, I don't know, imperial dudes that comes down and like as part of the rebellion, they kiss, and it looks like she gives a peck, and then she's like, ugh, ugh. It looks like she's about to throw up. I was dying laughing at it. It's just every major scene in this where it's like emotional, or it's supposed to be a death or a big kiss or something like that, is so funnily done. Like it all just looks like it's from The Room, or like Tommy Wiseau is doing sci-fi. Korra, when her love interest Gunner dies, she's like, look, it's really over. And then she dramatically looks back to him, and it's so comedically bad, that whole scene. You're just like, Jesus Christ. And that whole third act is just setting up a third movie anyways. Like everything in these two movies is just setting up something that's coming, and you're just so uninterested. Everything is just leading to something, and there's never any payoff to anything, and it sets up a third movie very clearly. And there's so much, like, you can see, I feel like with all Zack Snyder movies, you can see potential in them. You can see where, yeah, there's a story here that could be cool, but he cannot write, he cannot, really direct a lot of things, and his movies are just very mismatched and, I don't know, really odd. I just really did not enjoy this. I think I gave it 1.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd, and it's literally just violent farming simulator. We just watch so much farming. Half the movie's farming. It's not fun. Yeah, bit of a shorter review, but the movie's complete dog shit. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time and waste your time as well talking about it, because I just want to warn people not to watch this. It's so bad. This is like Zack Snyder's Madam Web. It's just hilariously bad. I mean, it's not even a movie that would be like fun to get high and watch. Like Madam Web, you could take some edibles and enjoy that for sure, and it's giggly bad. This is just like, what are they thinking? And it's boring. I never say movies are boring, but it is boring. It's just everyone's talking monotone and like one dimension acting. But anyways, that was Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, another long name as well. Those were the 2 reviews. Obviously, I enjoyed one property much more than the other. I thought Fallout was tremendous, and Rebel Moon was my least favorite movie of the year other than Madam Web. But let's move on to what else I watched. Last weekend, Ryan Gosling hosted Saturday Night Live, and we had another knocked it out of the park episode. He was hilarious, and you could tell he was losing his voice the entire episode, but he powered through. So funny. There were so many great sketches. I think the Beavis and Butthead one was maybe my favorite, but there was one at the start where this couple gets engaged, and he's clearly made a mistake, and he doesn't, and every time the 2 women leave the room, he's telling the other boyfriend or the other husband, like, I made a mistake. And it's so funny. funny. And although they didn't show it on the live on air, they did an extra thing where they did a sequel to the Papyrus sketch, which if you haven't seen, it's basically this guy that's obsessed with the fact that Avatar used the Papyrus font, which is super popular, and they keep using it on their movies, and he finds out that the second one is using Papyrus, and it's, oh my god, it's funny. If you have like Amazon or anything where you can like watch Global TV or NBC, you can watch Saturday Night Live, I highly recommend you do, because it is a very, very funny episode. The Kristen Wiig and Ryan Gosling episodes were top notch. Also watched Survivor 46 this week. Was one of the, I think possibly one of the best episodes of the new era. This guy Q kept threatening to go home at tribal council and everyone just started freaking out, but also it was just a fun episode. They played like hide and seek at the camp, which we never see. They're just like all hanging out. There's drama. The challenge was really good and went on for a while. It's ever since, I've said it every week, but ever since the Bonu vote out, this season has been so good. And I'm rewatching season 44 with my girlfriend right now, and I really like that season as well, but like 46 is awesome, and I really like this cast. So if you're not watching Survivor, I recommend you do, because it is still so entertaining. It's the only reality show that I watch. I love it. This has been such a likable cast and great episodes, and they're kind of simplifying the game as well. They're not putting as many advantages. Like last week, everybody could vote, where usually, there's at least 2 people missing their vote or are not allowed to vote. So yeah, it was cool. It was a really good blindside episode this week. Finally, on yesterday, on his birthday, his 60th birthday, Mr. Conan O'Brien, who is Mr. Hot Stuff around everywhere, rightfully so. His new HBO show, or his new Max show, Conan O'Brien Must Go, released this week. And I watched the first 2 episodes. I watched Norway and Thailand, and they were both so hilarious. If you enjoyed Conan's remotes on late night, or if you liked his other travel episodes where he did on TBS and stuff like that, I highly recommend you watch this. Or if you just like travel shows and you like funny stuff, this is great. Basically, the premise is like he has his podcast where once a week he talks to a fan on Zoom, and every time the fan would always be like, oh, well, if you're ever here, like, let me know. And basically he goes and surprises the fans, and they think it's for the podcast, and it's just the producers there to get like B-roll footage, but it's just Conan showing up to their houses, and it's so goddamn funny. He is, he's 60, but he's still just as hilarious as he was 20 years ago, and I cannot remember it. If you're in Canada, it's on Crave. If you're in the States, it's on Max, and I couldn't recommend it enough. It is so goddamn funny. Yeah, those were the 3 things I watched this week, because I was binging Fallout. I was busy with my dissertation as well, watching Survivor 44 with my girlfriend. So lots of good stuff. I got to catch up on Shogun. I also watched X-Men Life Death Part 2, where it's revealed that Charles Xavier is alive, and we get Storm getting her powers back. Sick episode. X-Men 97 is so awesome. It could be my favorite show of the year. I don't know. It's tight, but I am loving X-Men 97, and I want 10 seasons. Because it's so great. The animation, I think, is phenomenal. The story and, voice acting is perfect. And this week, the whole sequence of Storm getting her powers back was so great. And I loved it. I couldn't recommend it enough. Even if you don't like X-Men, I think it's a cool animated show that people would enjoy. And I think that about does it for episode 14. I'm going to go and enjoy my birthday dinner with my parents and my girlfriend. We're going to have some nice Croatian food tonight. As always, thank you so much for listening. You can support the show by rating and reviewing it 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, the Acast website. It's also on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and comment. It helps with engagement. It helps grow the show if you do, rate it 5 stars or like and subscribe and comment on YouTube. What did you think of Rebel Moon if you dared to watch it? Have you been watching Fallout? Is it your favorite video game adaptation? What is your favorite video game adaptation? I'm curious, because The Last of Us was phenomenal. I never played that game either, but Fallout's really great. I think The Last of Us probably has the edge on it, but we're seriously getting some really good video game adaptations. But yeah, get in touch with me. You can follow me on TikTok at watcher.of.all.things. You can follow on Instagram at watcherofallthings. Follow me on Letterboxd, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70, where you can see all my reviews. You can also email the show, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Get in touch with me on social media. Rate it 5 stars. I post other stuff on my social media as well, not just the podcast. Yeah, thanks again for watching. Next week, we have a highly anticipated film, Challengers, which is going to be hot and spicy. I'm looking forward to it. It looks cool. I love tennis, so it's going to be fun to watch. It's a busy week. I'm going to be defending, but I'm still seeing, I I think 4 movies next weekend. I'm seeing both Dunes in IMAX again and Challengers and that new Sam Raimi movie. Yeah, thank you always for the comments and amazing messages I get every week. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next one.